Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayeshu Adreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhakti Neshtiki. Thank you all. So we would continue our readings on Srimad Bhagavatam. We are on Canto 1, chapter 16. Today we will cover shloka from 18 till 25. Okay. So we'll start with the text number 18. Rao Prabhu, can you share your screen for the others?
Sure, Prabhu, doing it.
So we will read the shloka and then I have some material prepared for this class and we'll continue seeing at the presentation that I have created. Okay. Just give me a minute. Okay, so we are at text number 18. Let's read that. Dharma padekena charana vichaya mupalabhyagam prachati samashruta vandana vivatsami mataram. Translation. The personality of religious principles, Dharma, was wandering about in the form of a bull. And he met the personality of Earth in the form of a cow, who appeared to grieve like a mother who had lost her child. She had tears in her eyes, and the beauty of her body was lost. Thus, Dharma questioned the earth as follows. Krishna Krishna Chaitanya. Namo Shivaya Krishna. Purport. Can anyone read the purport for this shloka number 18?
Yes, Prabhu. The bull is the emblem of the moral principle, and the cow is the representative of the earth. When the bull and the cow are in the joyful mood, it is to be understood that the people of the world are also in a joyful mood. The reason is that the bull helps production of grains in the agricultural field, and the cow delivers milk, the miracle of aggregate food values. The human society therefore maintains these two important animals very carefully so that they can wander everywhere in cheerfulness. But at the present moment, in this age of Kali, both the bull and the cow are now being slaughtered and eaten up as foodstuff by a class of men who do not know the Brahmical culture. The bull and the cow can be protected for the good of all human society simply by the spreading of Brahminical culture as the topmost perfection of all cultural affairs. By advancement of such culture, the morale of society is properly maintained, and so peace and prosperity are also attained without extraneous efforts. When Brahminical culture deteriorates, the cow and the bull are mistreated, and the resultant actions are prominent by the following symptoms. Hare Krishna.
Okay, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. So I'll share my screen now. Rao Prabhu, can you give? Okay, I have it. Sorry, I was seeing where to share. Okay, share. Let me know if you can see my screen now.
Yeah,
Into presentation mode. Okay, so we are here. Let's do a recap on 16.16 first. A very good shloka. Last time we did this, but somehow we did this in a hurry. I just wanted to recap this shloka and then we move to the actual, which is shloka number 18. 16 is very good and very important shloka, nice shloka. I'll just read it. It says, Sarathya Prasada Sevana Sakhya Dautya Virasana Anugaman Satvana Pramanana Signeshu Pandeshu Jagat Pranatim Cha Vishnur Bhaktim Karoti Nar Pratischarnara Vinde. Very beautiful shloka. It says Sarathya. So here what we are seeing is that Lord Krishna has accepted the service of become a Sarathi. So Sarathi means acceptance of a post of a chariot driver. Okay. Prasada, this is acceptance of the presidency in the assembly of Rajasuya. He accepted that. Sakhya, to think of the Lord as a friend. Dautya, acceptance of the post of a messenger. Virasana means acceptance of the post of a watchman with a drawn sword at night. Okay. So what is happening in this shloka is typically saying that Lord Krishna has accepted all the menial services that we are talking about. He becomes a sevak, he becomes a sarthi, okay, he becomes a friend, he becomes a messenger, he becomes a postman, and he is doing all this menial services for the Pandavas. So this shloka is very good, and this is only because of one thing. And this is where we read last time was that Parikshit Maharaj, whenever he was going to various places, he was also he was glorified. The activities of Pandavas were glorified, and the Lord also was glorified. So here, this shloka tells that Lord Krishna has accepted all the menial services only because of the reason that Pandavas were pure devotees of the Lord. And here, Lord Krishna really wanted to say what Pandavas are, how good they are. Krishna really wanted to expose the good qualities of the Pandavas. So Krishna took all the menial services only for the reason because they were pure devotees of the Lord. Okay, very good shloka that I really wanted to recap. Okay, so let's go to 18. First, let's come here on the 18. So give me a moment. I'm here, 18. So let's recap what is happening. Here, now, if you see, there are two personalities. So there are two things happening, dharma and dhara. So dharma in the form of a bull is actually talking to a cow who is in the form of dhara. So dhara and dharma are together now, and they are in a situation where bull is asking a lot of questions to dhara. So dharma is asking questions to dhara, and the situation is that the cow appeared to be grief like a mother who has lost her child. She had tears in her eyes, and the beauty was lost. Okay, and dharma questions the following to them, and Prabhupada nicely says that this all what you are seeing right now in the age of Kali Yuga is because the Brahmanical culture is totally lost. Okay, and Prabhupada says that the bull and the cow needs to be protected by the human society. That's the most important part. And last, Prabhupada says when the Brahmanical culture deteriorates, the cow and the bulls are mistreated, and the resultant actions are prominent by the following symptoms. So there are symptoms that we will see now for all the other shlokas. So let's see what do we have here. So this is dharma and dhara. They are meeting, and there were tears in the eyes, and this is what you see the picture, right? So this is Parikshit Maharaj. This is Kali, personified form, and you have bull and the cow. Checking with each other on certain questions and certain symptoms that we have. Okay, now Prabhupada really in this particular shloka really wants to say that the Brahmanical culture is lost, and people do not know the real knowledge, what that real knowledge is. And Prabhupada says that religious principles needs to be followed in all these sense. So Prabhupada says here, so when I say Prabhupada, this 16th chapter is where Prabhupada has consistently spoken on all the shlokas. I don't know if you happen to go into the library. So let me just go in here. If you go into transcripts, you will find that in the transcript, there are Prabhupada giving lectures on every canto and chapters. You can actually filter them by cantos. And 16th chapter is something that Prabhupada has consistently spoken on all the verses. And once you go into those, what happens is you have a full transcript and you also have an audio lecture that you can listen to. So my suggestion would be, please go to this transcript and just hear what Prabhupada says. You have a full audio, and then you have the full transcript on what Prabhupada is speaking about every verse. You should do that, okay? So I've just picked up a few points from those transcripts, and we are just reading them as Prabhupada had written or spoken. So Prabhupada says religious principle needs to be followed in every sense, okay? And what is religious principle? Religious principle means to understand who the God is. By religious principle, Prabhupada says one can become perfect in spiritual consciousness. And the human life is meant for that purpose, to know God. That is real knowledge. Okay. So Prabhupada says, in all the cases, you need to follow the religious principles. And the shloka clearly says that all the Brahmanical culture was lost and people did not know what the real essence of the religion is. And then Prabhupada further elaborates that knowledge or Veda means knowledge. And a shloka that Prabhupada quotes is Bhagavad Gita 15:15. I'll read that. It says, Sarvasya chaham hridhi sannivishto mattah smritir jnanam aponaham cha vedaischa sarver aham eva vedyo vedantakrit vedavid eva chaham. Can someone read the purport for this?
I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas.
So that is real knowledge. So Prabhupada, when he says religious principles needs to be followed, and what does a religious principle mean is to know God. And what is that knowledge? This is the knowledge. Krishna clearly says, I am to be known. I am the compiler of the Vedanta and I am the knower of the Vedanta. So if we need real knowledge, if you want to know what are religious principles, then we need to know who the Lord is. We need to know who Krishna is. Once we know that, then automatically we would be able to follow those religious principles. Okay. Now, what was also happening here was Prabhupada is saying that the Brahmanical culture is lost. Okay. And Prabhupada says that people who are doing all these activities of killing the cows and the bulls are actually Shudras with no perfect knowledge, right? And these are the Shudras who are actually going around and killing those innocent animals. Prabhupada says, since the Shudras have no knowledge, they think that animals have no souls. Hence, they go around and start killing cows and calves. So there is a very misconception Prabhupada is talking about that animals do not have souls. And there are always, Prabhupada mentions in different religions also that it is mentioned that animals do not have soul. Okay, but that's not the real sense. We will see animals also have souls. Now, Prabhupada says real Brahmanas are required to guide the people on what real knowledge is. Okay. And Prabhupada says the butchers, the cow slaughters, or their supporters, they say wrong that animals have no souls. And Prabhupada says animals have souls. Okay. And the symptoms are, Prabhupada says, because the cow has a soul, the cow is crying. So in this shloka, Prabhupada very clearly says the cow was crying. And that is a symptom that animals also have soul. Prabhupada also says the symptom of the soul is consciousness. If you have pain and pleasure that you are experiencing, that means there is a soul that is experiencing that pleasure and the pain. So animals also have souls, and Brahmanical culture were lost. Shudras had no perfect knowledge, and that was the reason that they were going around and killing calves and cows. This is what Prabhupada says. So Prabhupada very clearly says everyone is a Shudra in Kali Yuga. There is no one who is real Brahmana, Kshatriya, or Vaishyas. Everyone is at the level of the Shudra, and specifically people who perform these activities are Shudras who do not have perfect knowledge. Okay. So Prabhupada is clearly mentioning that there is a degradation that is happening in the Kali Yuga. And Prabhupada says the degradation is there of the religious principles. And Prabhupada in this specific verse clearly says that only 1/4 of the religious principles were followed. Out of the complete religious principle, only 1/4 was followed. Religious principles were not practiced at all. And then the result was that the duration of the life, bodily strength, mercifulness, memory, etc. were reducing. So this was the result of the degradation. So degradation of the religious principles, these were the symptoms, that there were nothing that was followed, only 1/4 was followed. People did not practice the principles. They were seeing results that their life, bodily strength, memory, etc. was reducing. And then Prabhupada mentions that this is what was happening, that people were coming to a level of an animal society. That was the result of the degradation of not following the religious principles. Apart from this, Prabhupada says it was becoming a complete hell. And then Prabhupada also said that everyone will degrade without the religion. And in this last section, Prabhupada will say what happens to people who actually degrade themselves. So 3 beautiful shlokas that I would read, and we'll look at the purport also for this 3. So Prabhupada says people are coming to the animal society. So here it says, it is Hitopdesha 25, it says, Ahar Nidra Bhay Methunam Cha. That means people are constantly involved in 4 activities. Ahar, eating; Nidra, sleeping; Bhay, defending; Methunam, having sex. So this features, if you read the next line, it says that Etad Pashubhi Naranam. So let's look at the translation. It says eating, sleeping, sex, and defense. These 4 principles are common to both human beings and animal. But what was happening here was, why Prabhupada is saying that people are going to the animal society, because all this, what you see, eating, sleeping, sex, and defense, was happening on an unrestricted level, right? Shastra says if you have to do this, then you have to do it as per the religious principles in a controlled manner. But here, Prabhupada was saying that people were going towards the animal society where these things were happening on an unrestricted level. Second, why it is becoming a hell? This was the next shloka that Prabhupada quotes, which is from Bhagavad Gita 14.18. Urdhavam gachanti sattvastha, madhye tishtanti rajasaha, jaghaya guda vrittistha ado gachanti tamasaha. That means those people in the mode of goodness gradually go upward to the higher planets. So people who are actually following religious principle, Prabhupada says that you will go to a higher planetary system. Those in the mode of passion will stay on the earthly planet, and those in the abominable mode of ignorance will go down to the hellish world. And this is what is the degradation in the Kali Yuga is observed, that people are slowly moving out from the mode of goodness towards the mode of ignorance. And if that happens, Prabhupada is saying it is very clear that you will go to the hellish world. The last shloka where Prabhupada mentions is from Bhagavad Gita 16:19. It says, Tan aham, tan aham dvi sataha kruran samashreshu nara dhaman Shipami Ajasaram Abhushan Ashurishva Eva Yonisho. So it says here that those who are envious and mischievous, who are the lowest among men, I perpetually cast into the ocean of material existence into various demonic species of life. So Prabhupada says this is the biggest danger. Asurishva eva yonishu. This says that they will go into a demoniac species of life. And Prabhupada says this is the biggest danger, right? We will see now what happens. So we all know that once we give up the body, you have to accept another body, right? And soul passes from one body to another is what is spoken in Bhagavad Gita 2.13. Dehino asmin yatha dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tatha dehantara praptir dhiras tatra tamuyate. As embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes to another body at the time of death. A sober person is not bewildered by this change. So Prabhupada clearly says that, yes, you in the previous shloka it was says demonic species of life. Now, you have to die, you will take another body. But it does not say what kind of a body. This shloka 2.13 does not say what kind of a body. There are 8,400,000 species of life, bodies and forms. You can go anywhere. And that is based on your karma, right? That will be completely dependent on what work you do. It says karmana deve daiva naitrena. So Srimad Bhagavatam 3:31:1 says, Shri Bhagwan Uvacha, Karmana daiva naitrena jantur dehopa pataye striya pravishta udaram pumso retha kangshareha. The personality of Godhead said, under the supervision of Supreme Personality and according to the result of his work, the living entity, the soul, is made to enter the womb of a woman through the particle of the main semen to assume particular type of a body. So here it is, you will take up another body, you will go into another species, but then it does not guarantee what kind of a body you will have. It would be completely based on the karma that you do. Okay. So what is real knowledge then? Prabhupada talks about Brahminical culture is lost. We saw that Shudras are working without any knowledge. So what is real knowledge? So real knowledge is mentioned in the shloka 9.25. It says, Yanti deva vrata devan Pritrin yanti pritrivrataha bhutani yanti bhutejya yanti mam yanti mam yanijo apimam. Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship the ancestors will go to the ancestors. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among them, will take birth among such beings, and those who worship me will live with me. So the real knowledge is this, that you have to decide where you have to really go. Okay. And then Prabhupada says, if you become really Krishna conscious, then you can come to his abode. And this is in Bhagavad Gita 4.9. So you need to decide where you want to go. But then Krishna clearly says, if you are fully conscious of me, then you come to me. It says, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti. So Arjuna, one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not upon leaving the body take this birth again in this material material world, but attains my eternal abode. So this is the real knowledge. The real knowledge is how do we go back home, back to Godhead? And you need to decide what to do. You have, if you say, okay, become fully Krishna conscious, and if you become fully Krishna conscious, then Krishna guarantees that you will reach his eternal abode. And then the only way to come out of the age of Kali Yuga is chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So this is Kali Yuga. All the symptoms that we see in this, when Kali is, when Parikshit Maharaj is meeting Kali, there has to be a way to come out of this age of Kali, and that is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam 12.3.15. Kaler Deosha Nidhe Rajan Asti Hi Eko Mahan Guna Kirtanad Eva Krishnasya Mukta Sangha Paramrajet. So although this is Kali Yuga, my dear king, although the Kali Yuga is the ocean of war, still there is one good quality about this age. Simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, one can become free from the material bondage and be promoted to the transcendental kingdom. So yes, all the problems are happening in here in this part where it says religious principles are lost. But Prabhupada clearly says there is a lot of degradation that is happening because of the religious principles not getting followed. And Prabhupada also mentions this, you have to be very careful on where you will reach when you do or when you go to this path of degradation. And Prabhupada says, you will go to hell, you will get another body. But at the last, Prabhupada says, since this is Kali Yuga, and then you have a way to get out, because Kali Yuga has one good quality, that chanting the name of the Lord, you will come out of that Kali Yuga very easily. So let's go to shloka number 19. So 19 says, Dharma uvacha kaschid bhadre anamayam atmanaste vichayasi malayate. Okay, sorry. Vichayasi mlayate shanmukhe alakshe bhagvatim antaradhim dure bandhu sochasi kanchanabha. Translation: Dharma in the form of bull asked, Madam, are you not hale and hearty? Are you covered with the shadow of grief? It appears by your face that you have become black. Are you suffering from some internal diseases, or are you thinking of some relative who is always in a distant place? Can someone read the purport?
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. The people of the world in this age of Kali are always full of anxieties. Everyone is diseased with some kind of ailment. From the very faces of the people of this age, one can find out the index of the mind. Everyone feels the absence of his relative who is away from home. The particular symptom of the age of Kali is that no family is now blessed to live together, to earn a livelihood. The father lives at a place far away from the son, or the wife lives far away from the husband, and so on. There are sufferings from internal diseases, separation from those near and dear, and anxieties for maintaining the status quo. These are but some important factors which make the people of this age always unhappy. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
So, Now, from this shloka onward, which is 19 to 23, there are questions asked by Dharma the bull. We will go through it because this is all in continuation. So we'll just read those questions on what kind of questions are being asked, and then we'll continue on the shlokas. So I'll just read them from the screen. So people will not be strong and healthy. People are always full of anxiety. Why are you covered with shadow of grief? People cannot stay together. Are you lamenting for someone who is staying at a distant place? That's the first question that was asked. Are you lamenting for me who has lost 3 legs? The next question. The other question is, people have become hard-hearted. They kill the cow in an organized manner. Are you lamenting at yourself because you are exploited by unlawful meat eaters? That's the other question. Then, people are not performing any sacrifices. Are you lamenting for demigods who are now bereft of their share of sacrificial offerings? Are you lamenting for that because people are not offering sacrifices? There will be drought and famine. Are you lamenting for those living beings? Women and children would be exploited. Are you lamenting for those who are left forlorn by unsurplus people? There will be sinful Brahmanas. Brahmanas will be serving kings rather than guiding them. Are you lamenting for the goodness, the goddess of learning Saraswati? Goddess of learning Saraswati is mishandled by the sinful Brahmanas. So this would turn around. Brahmanas would actually not work for the kings. Okay. People will only be involved in unrestricted sleeping, eating, mating, and defending. Are you lamenting for those people? And last question was asked, that was, people would be irreligious. Are you lamenting because Krishna is not present now? So these are the questions that are asked by Dharma the bull to the cow. And we will see now there are symptoms that that Dharma is talking about, and these symptoms are actually the symptoms of age of Kali Yuga. Okay, so let's go. 19, this is what we read. So what is the symptom in Kali Yuga that Prabhupada is writing in the purport and translation? Prabhupada says, people will not be strong and healthy, first symptom. And people would be full of anxiety. What would be the result of that? The result would be that family members will stay apart. Okay, because they are full of anxiety, they will not stay together. They will suffer from internal diseases. There will be a lot of diseases because they are not strong and healthy, because of all the irreligion that they are following, meat eating and stuff. They will suffer from internal diseases, and people of this age would be always unhappy. So that is the symptom that Prabhupada is talking about, and the resultant would be that they will stay apart, they will suffer from internal diseases, and they would be unhappy always. Okay. So that's what Prabhupada says in the shloka number 19. So let's look at shloka number 20 now. Pade nyunam sochasi maika pada matmanam va vrishaler bhokshayamanam aho suradin hrita yagya bhagan praja utsvim maghatvati varshati praja utasvin maghvati avarshati So translation, I have lost three legs, and now I am standing on one only. Are you lamenting for my state of existence? Or are you in great anxiety because henceforward the unlawful meat eaters will exploit you? Or you are in a sorry plight because the demigods are now bereft of their share of sacrificial offerings, because no sacrifices are being performed at present? Or are you grieving for living beings because of their sufferings due to feminine and drought? Purport. You want to read this?
Yeah.
Purport.
Hare Krishna. Purport. With the progress of the age of Kali, four things particularly, namely the duration of life, mercy, the power of recollection, and moral or religious principles will gradually diminish. Since dharma or the principles of religion would be lost in the proportion of 3 out of 4, the symbolic bull was standing on one leg only. When 3/4 of the population of the whole world become irreligious, the situation is converted into hell for the animals. In the age of Kali, godless civilizations will create so many so-called religious societies in which the personality of Godhead will be directly or indirectly defied. And thus, faithless societies of men will make the world uninhabitable for the saner section of people. There are gradations of human beings in terms of proportionate faith in the supreme personality of Godhead. The first-class faithful men are the Vaishnavas and Brahmanas, then the Kshatriyas, then the Vaishyas, then the Sudras, then the Mlichas, the Yavanas, and the last, the Khandalas, the
Chandalas.
Chandalas. The degradation of the human instinct begins from the Mlichas,
Malachas.
Malichas and the Chandala. State of life is the last word in human degradation. All the above terms mentioned in the Vedic literature are never meant for any particular community or birth. They are different qualifications of human beings in general. There is no question of birthright or community. One can acquire the respective qualifications by one's own efforts, and thus the son of Vaishnava can become a Mlicha, and the son of Chandala can become more than a Brahmana, all in terms of their association and intimate relation with the Supreme Lord. The meat eaters are generally called Mlichas, but all meat eaters are not Nichas. Those who accept meat in terms of scriptural injunctions are not Nichas, but those who accept meat without restriction are called Nichas. Beef is forbidden in the scriptures, and the bulls and cows are offered special protection by followers of the Vedas. But in this age of Kali, people will exploit the body of the bull and the cow as they like, and thus they will invite sufferings of various types. The people of this age will not perform any sacrifice. The Nichas population will care very little for performance of sacrifices. Although performance of sacrifice is essential for persons who are materially engaged in sense enjoyment. In the Bhagavad Gita 3.14 and 16, performance of sacrifices is strongly recommended. The living beings are created by the creator Brahma, and just to maintain the created living being progressively towards the path back to Godhead. The system of performing sacrifice is also created by him. The system is that living beings live on the produce of grains and vegetables, and by eating such foodstuff, they get vital power of the body in the shape of blood and semen, and from blood and semen, one living being is able to create other living beings. But the production of grains, grass, etc. becomes possible by rain, and this rain is made to shower properly by performance of recommended sacrifices. Such sacrifices are directly by the rites of Vedas, namely Sama, Yajur, Rig, and Atharva. In the Manusmriti, it is recommended that by offering of sacrifice on the altar of the fire, the sun god is pleased. When the sun god is pleased, he properly collects water from the sea, and thus sufficient clouds collect the origin and rains fall. After sufficient rains fall, there is a sufficient production of grains for men and all animals. and thus there is energy in the living being for progressive activity. The Nichas, however, make plans to install slaughterhouses for killing bulls and cows along with other animals, thinking that they will prosper by increasing the number of factories and live on animal food without caring for performance of sacrifices and production of grains. But they must know that even for the animals, they must produce grass and vegetables. Otherwise, the animals cannot live. And to produce grass for the animals, they require sufficient rains. Therefore, they have to depend ultimately on the mercy of the demigods like the sun god, Indra, and Chandra. And such demigods must be satisfied by performances of sacrifice. This material world is a sort of prison house, as we have several times mentioned. The demigods are the servants of the Lord who see to the proper upkeep of the prison house. These demigods want to see that the rebel living beings who want to survive faithlessly are gradually turned towards the supreme power of the Lord. Therefore, the system of offering sacrifice is recommended in the scriptures. The materialistic men want to work hard and enjoy fruitive results for sense enjoyment. Thus, they are committing many types of sins at every step of life. Those, however, who are consciously engaged in the devotional service of the Lord are transcendental to all varieties of sin and virtue. Their activities are free from contamination of the three modes of material nature. For the devotees, there is no need for performance of prescribed sacrifices because the very life of the devotee is a symbol of sacrifice. But persons who are engaged in fruitive activities for sense enjoyment must perform the prescribed sacrifices because that is the only means to get free from the reaction of all sins committed by fruitive workers. Sacrifice is the means for counteracting such accumulated sins. The demigods are pleased when such sacrifices are performed, just as a prison officers are satisfied when the prisoners are turned into obedient subjects. Lord Chaitanya, however, has recommended only one yajna or sacrifice called Sankirtana Yajna, the chanting of Hare Krishna, in which everyone can take part. Thus, both devotees and fruitive workers can derive equal benefit from the performance of Sankirtana Yajna. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you. A very big purport, but a very nice purport where Prabhupada is mentioning that in the age of Kali, we see power is getting reduced, moral, religious principles are getting diminished, right? And then Prabhupada also sees that 1/4 of the whole world becomes, 3/4 of the whole population of the world becomes irreligious. And then Prabhupada further goes and talks about, the degradation that happens, right? And Prabhupada is saying the degradation, Prabhupada mentions on various forms of degradation between the people. So let's go and see what do we have here for Shloka 20. So, am I in the right sequence? Yes, okay. So, Prabhupada mentions in the purport saying unlawful meat eaters. So the first thing that Prabhupada says here is all the unlawful meat eaters will suffer from their body and mind. Because they are performing such acts, they will suffer by the body and mind, right? So in the shloka, the word antar means within the body or within the mind. People will have a lot of distress if they go and start eating meat. So Prabhupada mentions they will face distress, which is at the Adhyatmika level, Adi Bhautik level, and Adhyatmik, Adi Bhautik, and Adi Devik. So these are three types of distress. Adhyatmik, the distress that we get from the body and mind. Then Adhyatmik is this. Adi Bhautik is the distress that you will get from the other people, and Adi Devik is the distress that we get from all the nature, which is either a drought or a flood and so forth. So all the unlawful meat eaters are going to suffer. That's for sure. The distress has to come to them. And then Prabhupada mentions the human degradation. So Prabhupada mentions that there are human beings who have faith in the Supreme Lord, and based on the proportion of the faith that they have on the Supreme Personality, Prabhupada says the top one is Vaishnavas and the Brahmanas. Then there is Kshatriyas, then there is Vaishyas, and there is Shudras. But then Prabhupada says there is a human degradation happening further. So people are going from Vaishnava Brahmanas to Kshatriyas to Vaishyas, from Shudras to, Prabhupada says they are moving towards Malechas. Then Prabhupada says Yavanas and the Chandalas. And Prabhupada says, how do you identify them? So Prabhupada clearly says that Vaishnavas and Brahmins, you can clearly identify them the way on what things they are eating. So Brahmanas and Vaishnavas will eat a purified prasadam. But as the degradation happens, you would find that people have started eating meat. And that's the degradation that happens from a Vaishnava to the Malechas. And further down, from the meat eater, the last one Prabhupada says is the Chandalas, who are the dog eaters. So this is the human degradation that is happening. And Prabhupada mentions that it is not by birth or by community that you can come to any of this level. Prabhupada says a Vaishnava or a Brahmana can become a Malecha or a Chandala can even become a Vaishnava or a Brahmana. This is completely based on you, completely based on how you can really progress in your religious principles, and you can cross from any level to any level. But this is the human degradation that was seen, that people have started now from eating a purified prasadam. They are going to a level of meat eaters, and further going or degrading themselves to go and eat dogs, which is the Chandalas. So meat eating is completely prohibited in the Vedic scriptures. I just have picked up few lines from the Manusmriti, which says why the meat eating is actually forbidden. So can someone read this? What is in the double quotes?
Rishi Manu in Manusmriti says, he who does not restrain, kill or hurt the living beings is pro-life and gets lots of happiness. You cannot get meat without killing, and killing does not give happiness. Therefore, one should not eat meat. Because of the way the meat is produced, the killing and torturing the animals, one ought to stay away from eating all kinds of meat. Anybody who kills innocent creatures in order to get happiness, he living and even after death does not get happiness. He who orders to kill animals, he who cuts the flesh, he who kills the animals, seller and buyer of animals for killing, he who cooks meat, he who serves meat, and he who eats meat, these are all killers and sinners.
So here it is clearly mentioned that meat eating is totally prohibited. You are not going to get any happiness if meat eating is happening. And this is what Prabhupada says, degradation is happening, but there is no happiness whatsoever if you eat meat. So this is something that I captured from the Manusmriti. Further, Prabhupada in this shloka says also is there are no sacrifices. So the people in this age of Kali will not perform any sacrifices. And Prabhupada says sacrifices is very essential because the performance of sacrifice is essential for people who are materially engaged in the sense enjoyment. So Prabhupada mentions that people who are materially motivated, they tend to do a lot of sense enjoyment. Now, if you are performing sense enjoyment, then you need to perform sacrifices. Why? Because people are committing a lot of sins when they do sense enjoyment. So the materialistic people, they really want to work hard for their results, and they really want to enjoy, or sense enjoyment is there once they get the fruitive results. Those fruitive results are taken, and the only thing that they will do is a sense enjoyment. And when they start doing the sense enjoyment, they are committing all kinds of sin. So sacrifice is very important for a materialistic person who is enjoying the fruits of his results and enjoying his or doing sense enjoyment. For those people, sacrifice is very much important. And Prabhupada gives a very good example on why do we need this kind of why do we need to perform these sacrifices, right? And Prabhupada gives an example: the living entity requires food and grains, and with those food and grains that he takes, he gets the power in terms of blood and semen, and then with that, other living entities are born. But then Prabhupada says, what do you need to get the food and grain? You need grain, you need the rain. And rain is only and only available when you do sacrifices. And sacrifices that are performed as per the prescribed scriptures like Sam, Yajur, Athar, Vedas, right? Sam, Yajur, Rig, and Athar Vedas. So once you perform these rites, then what would happen is the mercy of the demigods like Sun, Indra, and Chandra is what you will get. And based on this, you will get the rain. So Prabhupada also says, even for the people who are maintaining the slaughterhouses, they do not understand that there is a lot of food grains that are required even by the cattle, by the slaughterhouses who are there, the animals whom they want to feed it. And they don't understand that food and grain is only possible through the rains. And there is a big dependency on all the demigods that are there. So that is the lack of knowledge that is there. So yes, we need to perform these sacrifices. And this is one of the examples that Prabhupada says, you need to perform these sacrifices, right? Now, I just read the purpose of the sacrifice, why it is important. So the persons who are engaged in the fruitive activities for sense enjoyment must perform the prescribed sacrifices, because that is the only means to get free from the reaction of all the sins committed by the fruitive workers. So as we saw in the previous slides, while you are doing your sense enjoyment, you are having all sorts of reactions, and those reactions are having sins. And since you are a fruitive workers, there is no way to come out of that so there is no way to come out of those reactions of those sins that you're going to get. The only way you will come out of those reactions of all the sins is through the sacrifices. The other two very important point on why sacrifices are important. The purpose of the sacrificial rituals is to revive gradually the spiritual realization of the living entities, right? Once you perform sacrificial rituals, you will gradually uplift yourself. So we see now there is a degradation happening, but there is a way that you can uplift yourself, right? And this is where it says you need to do sacrificial rituals so that you can understand what is real knowledge, what is real sense, who the Lord is, who am I, what is my relationship with the Lord, and this is all when you do sacrifices. So thus the sacrificial rituals, however, are intended to please the Supreme Personality of the God, Supreme Lord. Unless one pleases the Supreme Lord, or unless one is Krishna conscious, one cannot be happy either in the material enjoyment or in the spiritual realization. So this example is very apt, where if you're not pleasing the demigods, you're not pleasing the Lord, the Supreme Lord, then nothing is going to happen. Everything is going to get lost. Okay. And then it clearly says that you will neither be happy while you are materially enjoying things or in the spiritual realization. So for this reason, the sacrifice has to be performed. It is very important to perform sacrifices. And the other very important part that Prabhupada speaks about is, now here in this shloka, if you see in this example, in this translation, Prabhupada says the mercy of the demigods like Sun God, Indra, and Chandra. Why the mercy? Because they are giving you rain, they are giving you moonshine, they are giving you sunshine, because of which you are getting food and grains and other things. Prabhupada says there is a debt against them. Since they are providing you all that is needed, there are so many debts that you need to get rid of. Rin, right? That's the rin that Prabhupada talks about, right? There is putra rin, there is pitra rin, there is dev rin. So the shloka of Srimad Bhagavatam 11.5.41 talks about on all these rin, right? So here it says, I'll read the purport directly. It says, O king, one who has given up all material duties and has taken full shelter of the lotus feet of Mukunda, okay, who offers shelter to all, is not in debt to the demigods, great sages, ordinary living beings, relatives, friends, mankind, or even one forefather who have passed away. Since all such classes of living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, one who has surrendered to the Lord's service has no need to serve such persons separately. So this clearly says that there are specific debts that you have against your forefathers, against your parents, against your all the demigods. You need to repay that. Now, this shloka very specifically says that if you are completely surrendered onto the Supreme Lord, then there is no need to repay those debts. But if you are into the material world, not really taken shelter of the Supreme Lord, then the only way is you have to perform sacrifices and remove all the rents that you have. Okay, so that is shloka number 11.5.41. These three ones are already that I spoke about. It was just that I could not rearrange. Okay, so a very good purport here where Prabhupada talks about the degradation on what happens. Prabhupada is talking about the sacrifices, that no one does any sacrifices in the Kali Yuga. And then it is very important for all the materially motivated people to do the sacrifice, because that's the way they will, the way the reaction of all these sins would go. Otherwise, it's not possible. And last, Prabhupada says that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has recommended only one sacrifice, which is Sankirtana Yagna, that is chanting of the Hare Krishna. Okay, let's go to shloka number 21. Arakshayamanam striyam urvi balan sochasyatho purusha devi vartanam vacham devim brahma kule kukarmanya brahmanye raja kule kula grayan. Translation: are you feeling compassion for the unhappy women and children who are left forlorn by unscrupulous person, or are you unhappy because the goddess of learning is being handled by Brahmanas addicted to the acts against the principles of religion, or you are sorry to see the Brahmanas have taken shelter of administrative families that do not respect Brahmanical culture? Can someone read the purport?
In the age of Kali, the women and the children, along with the Brahmanas and cows, will be grossly neglected and left unprotected. In this age, illicit connection with women will render many women and children uncared for. Circumstantially, the woman will try to become independent of the protection of men, and marriage will be performed as a matter of formal agreement between man and woman. In most of the cases, the children will not be taken care of properly. The Brahmanas are traditionally intelligent men, and thus they will be able to pick up modern education to the topmost rank. But as far as moral and religious principles are concerned, they shall be most fallen. Education and bad character go ill together, but such things will run parallel. The administrative heads of as a class will condemn the tenets of Vedic wisdom and will prefer to conduct a so-called secular state, and the so-called educated brahmanas will be purchased by such unscrupulous administrators. Even a philosopher and writer of many books on religious principles may also accept an exalted post in a government which denies all the moral codes of the Shastras. The Brahmanas are specifically restricted from accepting such service. But in this age, they will not only accept service, but they will do so even if it is of the meanest quality. These are some of the symptoms of Kali age, which are harmful to the general welfare of the human society. Hare Krishna.
So, Shloka number 21 talks about the first business of the government, Prabhupada says, is to give protection to first. So cows needs to be protected, women needs to be protected, brahmanas needs to be protected, children needs to be protected, and older people needs to be protected. According to the Vedic culture, all these five needs to be protected, and it's the duty of the government give protection to all the five. And in the Shloka 21, it is clearly said that cows will not be protected. Yes, there are killings of the cows. Women would not be protected. And Prabhupada clearly mentions that women will try to work independently of the men. And that's a problem because then women would get exploited everywhere. Brahmanas, whose duty is to guide the kings or to make sure that the religious principles are correctly followed, Brahmanas will just go into a service where it would be more of an administrative service rather than their duty of what they do. Children will not be protected, and definitely old also would not be protected. So protection is needed. Prabhupada says women require protection by father, by the husband, and by the elderly children. No doubt, as per the Shastras, woman needs to get protected. The father gives protection to the woman child and up to 16 years, Prabhupada says, and then she must be married. The father's duty would be finished when the daughter is given to a suitable boy to take charge of the woman. Brahmanas needs protection so that they can guide the king. They are the only ones who can educate people about the real dharma or religion. We get Vedic knowledge from the Brahmanas. So it is very important that we maintain or give protection to the women, because then if women are protected, then there's no Varna Sankra. That means women would not be exploited. Brahmanas needs to be protected because they are the one who would educate or give Vedic knowledge to the kings and to the general people. Okay. So, I think this is okay. Okay, this I really wanted to put this into Shloka 20, but it is coming here. This is all related again to the sacrifices. The peace formula is mentioned in 529. Bhoktaram yagne tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram surat sarvabhutanam gyatva mam shantim rakshati. A person in full knowledge of me, knowing in me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices. So this is what we were talking about, the sacrifices and the austerity, the supreme lord of all the planets and demigods, and the benefactor and the well-wisher of all the living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material existence, material miseries. Sorry, this was of part 21, but it was just some misalignment. Fine. Okay, so now here it is very clear that in 21, Prabhupada talks about the symptoms that Brahmanas, the children and the women would not be protected. And these were a few of the symptoms that Prabhupada says that, yes, this is what would happen. to them. Okay, it's very important, as we saw that they needs to be protected, but in the Kali Yuga, it would be the opposite, that they will not get protection. Let's go to Shloka 24. Kim Kshatrab Kim Shatra Bandhun Kalinopashrishtan Rashtrani Vatevaropitani Itastaro Va Itastato Vashana Panavasaha Snana Vyavayonmukha Jivalokam. So here it says translation, the so-called administrators who are now bewildered by the influence of this age of Kali, and thus they have put all the state affairs into disorders. Okay. Are you now lamenting this disorder? Now the general populace does not follow the rules and regulations for eating, sleeping, drinking, mating, etc. And they are inclined to perform such anywhere and everywhere. Are you unhappy because of this? Can someone read the purport?
Hare Krishna. Purport. There are some necessities of life on a par with those of the lower animals, and they are eating, sleeping, faring, and mating. These bodily demands are for both the human beings and the animals. But the human being as to fulfill such desires, not like animals, but like a human being. A dog can mate with a bitch before the public eyes without hesitation. But if a human being does so, the act will be considered a public nuisance, and the person will be criminally prosecuted. Therefore, for the human being, there are some rules and regulations, even for fulfilling common demands. The human society avoids such rules and regulations when it is bewildered by the influence of the age of Kali. In this age, people are indulging in such necessities of life without following the rules and regulations. And this deterioration of social and moral rules is certainly lamentable because of the harmful effects of such beastly behavior. In this age, the fathers and the guardians are not happy with the behavior of their wards. They should know that so many innocent children are victims of bad association avoided by the influence of this age of Kali. We know from Srimad Bhagavatam that Ajamila, an innocent son of a Brahmana, was walking down a road and saw a Sudra pair sexually embracing. This attracted the boy, and later on the boy became the victim of all debacharis. From a pure Brahmana, he fell down to the position of a wretched urchin, and it was all due to bad association. There was but one victim like Ajamila in those days. But in this age of Kali, the poor innocent students are daily victims of cinemas, which attract men only for sex indulgence. Thus, the so-called administrators and the untrained in the affairs of Kshatriya, the Kshatriyas are meant for administration, as the Brahmanas are meant for knowledge and guidance. The word Kshatrabandhu refers to the so-called administrators or persons promoted to the post of the administrator without proper training by culture and tradition. Nowadays, they are promoted to such exalted posts by the votes of the people who are themselves fallen in the rules and regulations of life. How can such people select a proper man when they are themselves fallen in the standard of life? Therefore, by the influence of the age of Kali, everywhere politically, socially, religiously, everything is topsy-turvy. And therefore, for the same man is all regrettable. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada. So here Prabhupada clearly mentions that human beings are also behaving like animals in an unrestricted way. So Prabhupada says, even for the common demands, things have to be done in a very restrictive manner. And Prabhupada gives an example of Ajamila, that how did his fall down happen? Ajamila was a Brahmana, but this just looking at certain things, he really had a fall down, right? And Prabhupada says that the Brahmanas are people who actually should be guiding the kings, rather than Prabhupada says they are taking work of some administration task and not really going into the religious principles. This is one of the symptoms of Kali. So Prabhupada says in this 22 is each one has to follow their responsibility. If you are a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishyas or Shudra, everyone needs to follow their responsibilities. And in the age of Kali Yuga, this is what was seen, that they were not following their responsibilities. So let's take Brahmana. What is a Brahmana supposed to do, right? This is in 1842 of Bhagavad Gita. It says, Samodama tapasaucham. Okay, Shantir Arjavam Evacha, Jnanam Vijnanam Astikyam Brahma Karma Sambhavajam. It says peacefulness, self-control. These are the natural qualities by which the Brahmanas work. And sorry, are you able to hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, in between couple of seconds, it lost the voice.
Yeah, okay. So these are the qualities of the Brahmanas, right? But then we are seeing that Brahmanas are taking a different job, right? They are not really doing what they are supposed to do, as mentioned in this shloka of 42. So let's look what Kshatriyas are supposed to do. Shauryam Tejo Dhritir Daksham, right? Then it says heroism, power, determination, resourcefulness, courage in the battle, generosity, leadership are natural qualities of a Kshatriya. This is what 18.43 says. And what are Vaishyas and Shudras supposed to be? Krishi, Go, Raksha, Vanijyam. So Krishi, Go, Raksha and Vanijya. Farming, cow protection, and business are natural work for the Vaishyas, and for the Shudras, they are labor and service to others. So, sorry, it was very prominent that there was a degradation, and it was clearly mentioned that Brahmanas are not doing their job. And Prabhupada says everything must be in a regulative principle. I mean, everything should work in a regulative principle. And Prabhupada says it is the duty of the government to see that these regulative principles are observed by the citizens, right? That was the government responsibility. And who guides the government? It was the Brahmanas who were guiding the government, but it was the exact opposite in the Kali Yuga, right? So people should not get involved in the activities like sleeping, eating, mating, and drinking without following the rules and regulations. Even if these are common needs, it has to be done as per the Shastras, as per what Shastra says. Should not be unregulated and uncontrolled, right? Simply follow 4 regulative principles. No illicit sex, no meat eating, no gambling, no intoxication. Chant your 16 rounds. A very simple method that Prabhupada says. And Prabhupada also quotes one very nice shloka from Srimad Bhagavatam 554 Rishabdevs, right? Nunam pramatta kurute vikrama yat indriya pratiya apnoti na sadhu manye yat atmano ayam asan api kleshad Kleshada asadeha deha. It says, when a person considers self-gratification the aim of life, he certainly becomes mad after materialistic living and engages in all kinds of sinful activities. So this is what it is, that if you are after sense gratification, what would happen is you will engage into all sinful activities. He does not know that due to his past misdeeds, he has already received a body which, although temporary, is the cause of all the miseries. So he knows that he is suffering, but he doesn't know that this suffering is because of the misdeeds that he has done. And he has already received this body because of this misdeeds, and he is having this body which is temporary and is the cause of all the miseries. Actually, the living entity should not have taken on the material body, which we should have not taken, but he has been awarded the material body for sense gratification. Therefore, I think it not benefiting an intelligent man to involve himself again in the activities of sense gratification, by which he perpetually gets the material bodies one after the other. So it is clearly, Rishabhdev is clearly saying it is not at all intelligence that you again start getting into, you get another body, you start going into the activities of sense gratification, and you are trapped into the miseries, and you get body. You get miseries, you get into the body. So this is going on and going on. So Prabhupada says everything must be in a regulative way. Even if you are having some needs, it has to be controlled. It has to be as per the Vedic rules and regulations. If you don't follow this, then Rishabhdev clearly says you are going to get involved into a process of birth and death, where you will have miseries, you will get body, you'll get miseries, and this will continue. Okay. Let's go to 23 now. Okay. Yadvambate bhuri bharavatara prataavatarasya harer bheritri antahritasya smarati vrishta vi srishta karmani nirvana vipalam viplambitani. Translation: O Mother Earth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari incarnated himself as Lord Krishna just to unload your heavy burden. All his activities are transcendental, and they cement the path of liberation. You are now bereft of his presence. Are you probably now thinking of those activities and feeling sorry in their absence? Purport. Can I read this? Yeah, okay, please go ahead. Yeah.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The activities of the Lord include liberation, but they are more relishable than the pleasure derived from nirvana or liberation. According to Srila Jiva Goswami and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the word used here is nirvana, vilambitani, that which minimizes the value of liberation. To attain nirvana, liberation, one has to undergo a severe type of tapasya, austerity. But the Lord is so merciful that he incarnates to diminish the burden of the earth. Simply by remembering such activities, one can defy the pleasure derived from nirvana and reach the transcendental abode of the Lord to associate with him, eternally engaged in his blissful loving service. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. So in 23, Prabhupada says activities of the Lord are more relishable. And there is a word that Prabhupada is talking about in this translation is nirvana or liberation. So Prabhupada says one can defy the pleasure derived from nirvana and reach the transcendental abode of the Lord to associate him. So liberation is a byproduct. So when you do bhakti, you are automatically liberated, Prabhupada says. But then Prabhupada says, if you really have to defy the pleasure of nirvana, how you can do it? So Prabhupada says nirvana does not mean no work or no activity, right? There is a misconception where people say nirvana means don't do anything, okay, go into void and stuff like this. But that's not nirvana means, okay? And we will see what nirvana actually means. So how nirvana does not mean no work or no activity. By getting engaged in the Lord's blissful, loving service, you can defy the pleasure that is derived from liberation. So even above the liberation is you can actually get associated with the Lord, do service towards him, and you can get the blissful, loving service. Okay. Now, Prabhupada mentions nirvana means finishing this material life. What does this mean? Prabhupada says our main business is to get out of this material body, right? And the business is to go back home, back to Godhead. That is actually nirvana. So Prabhupada says, finish this material life and go back home, back to Godhead. For that, what is required? For that, what is required is you need to work for Krishna, right? So nirvana doesn't mean no activity or no work, but it means that you need to work for Krishna. And Krishna clearly says that you can come to me. The final goal to reach the transcendental abode, Krishna clearly says in Bhagavad Gita 3.9, which says, work done in the sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Okay? Otherwise, work causes bondage in the material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction. And in that way, you will always remain free from the bondage. So nirvana means finishing this material life, going home back to Godhead. But for that, you will have to work for Krishna. Okay, that is very clear that Prabhupada is saying into this shloka number 23. Now, we are seeing now that the Dhara and Dharma are talking about this. Parikshit Maharaj is there, but Krishna is not at all present during that time. Okay, and then in Chaitanya Charitamrita 17:133, it clearly says, even if Krishna is not present, and this is what the lamentation is, because the bull also, the bull is asking cow, saying that, are you lamenting that Krishna is not present? So Prabhupada says, even if Krishna is not present at that time, you can still get associated with the Lord. How? Through his name. It is Nam Chintamani Krishna Chaitanya Ras Vigraha Purna Shuddha Nitya Mukto Avitva Nama Namino. In Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 17:33, it is said, the holy name of Krishna is transcendently blissful. Okay, it bestows all spiritual benedictions, for it is Krishna himself, the reservoir of all pleasure. Krishna's name is complete and it is the form of all transcendental mellows. It is not a material name under any condition, and it is no less powerful than Krishna himself. So Krishna and Krishna's name is not different. Since Krishna's name is not contaminated by material qualities, therefore no question of its being involved with Maya. Okay, so he's beyond modes of material nature. Okay, Krishna's name is always liberated and spiritual. It is never conditioned by laws of material nature. Okay, this is because the name of Krishna and Krishna himself are identical. So here we are seeing that we need to perform things for Krishna for sure. Nirvana means that you have to go back home, back to Godhead. But then if Krishna is not present, you still have a way where you can actually attain that transcendental blissfulness, which Prabhupada here mentions that you can really defy the pleasures derived from nirvana. And this is through the names of the Lord. So if Krishna is not there, equally his name is powerful. That will allow you to associate. It would get all the transcendental blissfulness that you need. It will bestow all the spiritual benedictions that you need. And this is why it is Krishna and Krishna's name are typically identical. Okay. So devotees, they don't go after liberation. They go for a service that they need to go, they need to do into the spiritual world, and their aim is to return home back to Godhead. So 24. Idam mamachashva tadha tavadhi moolam vasundhareyena vikarshitasi kalena vate balinam baliyasa surarchitam kim hitamba sobhagam. Translation: Mother, you are reservoir of all riches. Please inform me the root cause of your tribulations by which you have been reduced to such a weak state. I think the powerful influence of time, which conquers the most powerful, might have forcibly taken your fortune, which was adored even by the demigods. Purport.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. By the grace of the Lord, each and every planet is created fully equipped. So not only is this earth fully equipped with all the riches for the maintenance of its inhabitants, but also when the Lord descends to the earth, the whole earth becomes so enriched with all kinds of opulences that even the deniers of heaven worship it with all affection. But by the will of the Lord, the whole earth can at once be changed. We can do and undo, he can do and undo a thing by his sweet will. Therefore, no one should consider himself to be self-sufficient or independent of the Lord. Jai Srila Prabhupada, Hare Krishna.
So it's very clear, it is said that time. So Prabhupada talks about a time. So here it is saying that, is it that things have been forcibly taken from you? And that is Kala, that's the time, influence of time. So Prabhupada here writes is, by the grace of Lord, every planet is created or equipped fully, right? So let's look at the slides here. Okay, so 116.24 says everything is created by God is complete. Very beautiful shloka of Shri Ishopanishad. The first invocation, that is Om Purnam Adha Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachite Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnam Evavashishyate. The personality of Godhead is perfect and complete. And because he is completely perfect, all emanations from him, such as this phenomenal world, are perfectly equipped as complete wholes. Whatever is produced of the complete whole is also complete in itself, because he is complete whole. Even though so many complete units emanate from him, he still remains the complete balance. So here it says everything comes from the Lord. Everything is working in its perfect arrangement, right? The universes are floating as they are. The sun, moon, everything is they are working as expected. There is no problems at all. So everything is complete. Everything that the Krishna has given in terms of resources, in terms of vegetation, in terms of anything that you see, is all perfect, right? So everything comes from Krishna. Prabhupada says even the time is the form of the Lord, the earth and everything is abiding by the Lord and the orders of the Lord. So first everything comes from the Lord, and everyone is abiding by the Lord and the orders of the Lord. So even the sun rising, sun setting, these are all instructions that the Lord has given Suryadev, and he is performing those perfectly. So everyone has to abide by the orders of the Lord, right? And Krishna clearly says in Bhagavad Gita 10.8 is Aham sarvasya prabhaho mattah sarvam pravardate iti mattva bhajanti mam bhuda bhavat. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. So everything that you see in the spiritual world and in the material world, it is because of him. He's the source. Everything emanates from him. The wise who perfectly know this knowledge in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. So there's nothing that is not coming out from Krishna. Everything comes out from Krishna. And Prabhupada says that we are always dependent on Krishna's and Krishna's mercy, right? So he has given all the resources. This is what is mentioned in the translation, that Krishna has given all the required resources that you need, and then we should use them adequately, and we should not misuse those resources. Okay, so there is a dependency that is there. What if Krishna doesn't give you the earth or the water or the other resources that are required for your food grains to grow? Air is not there. What will happen? So all these resources are given by Krishna to us, but then the only thing is we should not misuse them. And there is a dependency, because if these things are depleted, then there is nothing that we can do. Okay, and this is what the Prakriti is. And it says that Prabhupada says Prakriti is working under Krishna's supervision. So all that you see as Prakriti, the arrangements, everything as resources, they are all working under the supervision of Krishna. Mayadhyakshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam Hetu Nanena Kaunteya Jagaddivi Parivartate. 9-10. The material nature, which is one of my energies, is working under my direction. O son of Kunti, producing all moving and non-moving beings. It's under its rule, the manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. So whatever you see as moving and non-moving as into the Prakriti, it is Krishna's energy. It is provided by Krishna. It is his manifestation, right? And Krishna says it's under his rule that it would be created, annihilated again and again. So it would be created, it would be destroyed. It would be created, it would be destroyed. So we are always dependent on Krishna's mercy, okay? And we should not misuse the resources that are there, okay? And again, everything belongs to Krishna, right? Is this ours? This is not ours, right? So everything that he has given to you also belongs to him, right? So in Ishwar's first shloka also he says, Ida vasam edam sarvam yat kincha jagatam jagat tena tyaktena bhunjita makrida kasya svidhanam. Everything emanate or inanimate that is within this universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. So we have no proprietorship over anything that we have. Everything belongs to the Lord. One should therefore accept only those things necessary for himself, which are set aside as his quota. Again, it is very important. So if the Lord has given you everything, you should only take what is set aside for you. One should not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong to. So everything belongs to Krishna. Everything is, so Krishna is complete. Everything comes from Krishna. We have a dependency because he gives us all of this. And we should take only part that is set aside for us as a quota, not to exploit that, right? And then ultimately, Prabhupada also says that even if you try to take things that do not belong to you, time will take away everything. And this is what is the question asked, that has time taken everything that you had forcibly from you? So Prabhupada says that Krishna will take everything from you in the form of Kala, right? As soon, Prabhupada says very nicely, as soon as we forget Krishna, then time will take away everything. Time will not allow us to enjoy. We need to utilize everything for the service of Krishna. And that's time. Kala will come in the form of death, right? Bhagavad Gita 10:34 says, death will take away everything. Mrityu sarvaharas chaham. So it says, I am devouring death. I am the generating principle of all that is yet to be. Among women, I am fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, steadfastness, and patience. So Krishna is everything. And Prabhupada says, so death is also Krishna. What is the difference? So if Krishna says everything is Krishna, death is also Krishna, right? And Prabhupada gives an example. Are we reading 24? Yeah. So Prabhupada gives an example that Hiranyakashipu, he was such a great demon, so proud, right? He was thinking that I am the proprietor of everything, everything belongs to him, right? And he was chastising his son, doing everything, whatever he liked. But then what happened? Narasimhadev came within a second, and everything is finished. He took everything. So one example is that. And the Prabhupada says, but Prahlad remained the same. Prahlad did not get finished. Hiranyakashipu got finished. So Prabhupada says, so those who are trying to be very, very big by material possessions, they will be finished. But if you remain in the position of Prahlad, you will never be finished. So here it is saying, yes, death will take away everything, but that everything that you possess is not yours. Okay. So you have to be very careful in this, that everything belongs to Krishna, and we have to use everything that we have for the service of Krishna. Okay. So let's go to the last shloka that we have. Okay. It says Dharani Uvacha Bhavan hi Veda Tat Sarvam Yanmam Dharmanu Prachasi Chaturbhir Vartase Yena Pader Loka Sukha Have. Translation. I will read now the last one. The earthly deity in the form of cow thus replied to the personality of religious principles in the form of bull. O Dharma, whatever you have inquired from me shall now be known to you. I shall try to reply those questions. Once you too were maintained by your 4 legs, and you increased happiness all over the universe by the mercy of the Lord. Purport. The principles of religion are laid down by the Lord himself, and the executor of such laws is Dharmaraj or Yamaraj. Such principles work fully in the age of Satyuga. In the Treta Yuga, they reduced by the fraction of 1/4, and in the Dwapar Yuga, they are reduced to half, and in the Kali Yuga, they are reduced to 1/4, gradually diminishing to the 0 point. And then devastation takes place. Happiness in this world depends on proportionately on the maintenance of the religious principles, individually or collectively. The best part of valor is to maintain principles despite of all kinds of odds. Thus, one can be happy during the span of life and ultimately return back home, back to Godhead. So now there would be from 25 onwards, 26 onwards, we will see all the qualities of the Lord that are spoken about and stuff, and all the answers will be good. So here it is clear that the religious principles are degrading as we move from Satya Yuga to the Treta to the Dwapar Yuga. It is completely getting diminished. And Prabhupada says that, this would be last slide. Prabhupada says there is danger at every step. Okay. Kali Yuga, you have to be very careful. You need to follow the religious principles, and there is danger at each and every step. A very beautiful shloka in Srimad Bhagavatam 10:14, 58. Samashritaye padapallavam mahatpadam punya yasho murare bhavam budher vatsapadam parampadam padam padam yat vipadam natesham. So it says, for those who have accepted the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the shelter of cosmic manifestation and is famous as Murari, the enemy of Muradevan, the ocean of material world is like a water contained in a calf's hoof print. So here it is mentioned that the ocean of material world is very difficult to cross. But when you completely accept the lotus feet of the Lord, what happens? That full big material world becomes as small as calf's hoof print, and you will be able to easily cross. So their goal is Parampadam, Vaikuntha, the place where there is no material miseries, not the place where there is danger at every step. So the goal is that we reach Vaikuntha, where there is no material miseries, where there is no danger, but there is danger at every step, and the only way to cross the danger at every step that we see in Kali Yuga is to take the boat, except the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord. And once we do that, it would just appear as if it is just a water of the calf's hoof print. It is so small, and then we will be able to easily cross that boat of material existence if we take the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord. So that was the last question, last verse for today on Shloka 25. Any questions by anyone?
Prabhu, this verse, which is Bhagavatam 10.14.58, looks like Kunti Maharani's prayers, some sort of similarities.
I'll have to recheck, Prabhu, if that is part of the Kunti Stuti. I'll have to really check that.
Because she also
Yeah. I mean, yes. But she prays it in a different way. She says that because there were so many dangers, you were there to help us, right? Here it is more of saying that since the material world is too big for us to cross, we need a boat to cross, and that boat is only the lotus feet of the Lord. Okay, one last thing. I remember last week there was a question that was raised. I don't know who raised it. Rao Prabhu, you or Sushil Prabhu, you raised it on one question saying that gambling still did exist in the assembly when Krishna was there. So how do we understand that gambling? Okay, so we have the answer for that. I will just share my screen again very quickly. And we should be able to, I'm just going to show you something that is written in the Shastra. So let me share screen. Let me know if you see the screens.
Yes.
Okay, so I will read this on what this is. Okay, so I'm just reading from where this is. So Vayu will descend as Bhima. Swayambhuva Manu will appear as Arjuna. Okay. Satarupa will appear as Subhadra, and Savita will appear as Karna. The twin Ashwini Kumar will descend as Nakul and Sadev. Dhata will descend as heroic Bhalika and powerful Vahni will appear as Dronacharya. Now this is important. The question that was asked on, was Kali still present there when Krishna was there? Because we started reading that after Krishna departed his abode. This is where the symptoms, Kali started manifesting. Now this is in Garga Samhita, this particular shloka. So this line is very important. A partial incarnation of Kali will descend as Duryodhana. That's the answer. So Duryodhana, in his body, there was a partial incarnation of Kali already present. And this was written and predicted. So this is in Garga Samhita written that Duryodhana, a partial incarnation of Kali, will descend as Duryodhana. So Duryodhana was already having a partial incarnation of Kali. That's why you will find that Duryodhana was always interested with Dushasana activities. He was always interested what Shakuni was doing. And that was only because that partial incarnation of Kali still manifested. And that manifestation was in the form of Duryodhana. So that was the answer to say, how do we understand that Kali was still present and gambling was still there? Yes, because partial manifestation of Kali still existed and he descended as Duryodhana, and hence all this episodes of what you call gambling took place. So this is confirmed by the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna to Lord Brahma in Canto 1, Chapter 1 of Garga Samhita. So Radhabhat Pankaj Prabhu very nicely clarified this, that yes, it is because of the partial form of the Riyodhan that existed. And this is how we need to understand that how did Kali still exist when the Lord was there, and that gambling that was there in the assembly. Okay.
Prabhu, like the
Thank you,
question was,
Prabhuji.
intelligent,
Thank
the
you.
answer was also very, very intelligent.
Yeah, it is actually. We posted this to the group. I wrote this, that Kali Yuga symptoms started appearing. So how do we understand? So are these symptoms still present back when Krishna was there? Did Kali still manifest? So the question was apt, and in Garga Samhita it is very nicely mentioned that yes, partial incarnation of Kali descended as Duryodhana.
Because
This is how we need to understand.
it was just before Kali Yuga, na,
Yeah, of course.
so one can understand that it started happening at that time also.
Yes. And the partial incarnation saves the story that why it was happening because of Duryodhana here. And this is in Garg Samhita, by the way. So we got the answer for that. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhu. Very nice class. आपकी
Thank
class
you, Prabhuji.
पेपर इतना भर जाता है कि कुछ कहने की बात नहीं.
नहीं प्रभु, I just try to write down, क्योंकि मैं भी भुलक्कड़ हूँ प्रभु. I also tend to forget things, and my only way to revise and somehow put things in my head is if I make the class, if I prepare, then I know few things at the back of the mind. Otherwise, मेरे से बड़ा भुलक्कड़ कोई नहीं है.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
चलो, Hare Krishna. चलो, thank you so much all.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.